ecosystem, one important thing to understand is how the roles look. What are companies doing? And there are archetypical configurations like a hub and spoke. When you have a platform, the central actor has a platform and they coordinate the thing. They often become the ecosystem leader. But from conceptual point of view, there are many different configurations that are possible. But to understand an ecosystem, it could be interesting to start to look at who is really determining things. Is there somebody controlling technical standards? Is there somebody having the customer relationship and so on? If you're in a platform, you have to abide to the platform roles that the platform owner sets. If you're on eBay, you're not allowed to sell certain things, for example. If the core of the ecosystem is a digital platform, you want the way the platform works with the specifications and rules to be stable over time, but the rest can change and adapt. You can stop selling books on Amazon and instead sell other things, or you can change how the categories are put together and so on. So it's a lot of flexibility here that you can use well. We talked about how ecosystems is comprised of many different actors that has value propositions that fits into the business model of some other actor. How do we do to map this? How do we describe it so we can analyze it or design it? Well, if we believe that providing functions is the only way to create value because it's how we satisfy needs, and we know that functions of products, they're generated by the product, but functions when we talk about services are generated by activities, then it should not matter if those activities are distributed over more than one actor. It should still be functions that are provided. We can build on the same kind of logic that we had when we discussed business models. So we can build value structure. We can put functions in the nodes. That has some benefits, some drawbacks. Or we can do a value network, put the functions in the lines, in the arrows. So network is some type of activity-capable entities with one-directional connections that is about an active verb, an action, with a function provider, the function, the action, the verb, on the line, and the function receiver. It is activities, but it's not all activities. It's only activities related to generating a useful outcome or result. It's about satisfying needs, maybe not for the end customer, but for someone that is needed, for someone that is needed for someone that satisfy the end customer's need. If we're so far back, actually, we're talking about support function most likely. And it's not resources or capabilities. It's a very fluffy concept. Also activities, fairly fluffy concept. These are resources, but functions is the generation of value from resources by carrying out activities. Now I use resources here. I prefer assets, but now I want to make a point what functions are not. You could have the function in an ecosystem of providing access to an asset. If I have an encryption technology, that's an asset that I might provide to the ecosystem. That might be a bank ecosystem, right? So my function is to provide encryption. The verb there is providing. So I provide the encryption. I provide an asset that the others can use. So it still is the activity of doing something for the greater system. Actors co-create value, but we do it by a structured collaboration. Structured as we are each performing specific functions that are needed to, in the end, come together and manifest value for an end user as the ecosystem's joint value proposition, right? And we can draw this. We can look at the traditional cable TV industry. We might have the functions billing, support, and distribution. And then we can also look at who is typically aggregating these functions together. In this case, it would be the cable TV channel that does this. That could be seen as an ecosystem role. So we have functions and we have roles. Right. Roles are the boundary around a typical configuration of functions that are usually done together by an actor. So the ecosystem role of a TV channel. Then you can have the ecosystem role of content creation, a company that makes TV series and movies. They have other functions. They need each other to reach the end customer because the content creator wants this function, which is sort of a important function here. The others are more like support function. Actually, the billing is an unwanted function. The end customer's value is decreased because he or she has to pay, right? So the value proposition would be better if it was for free from the customer's perspective. We have main functions. The TV channel entertains the viewer. And we also have complementary additional functions. They enhance the value proposition. Customer support solves problems. All right, solving problem, that's on the numerator of the value equation. So that is value. Then we have enabling support functions. The cable distribution, so that's the function of distribution there, transfers the content. That's something that is in the solution layer. Customers are not too interested in how it happens. They want to see the great TV series and with the quality that they require. But if it's through a fiber or a satellite dish or through a cable, that doesn't matter so much. We're interested in mapping the structure of value creation. We want to be able to clearly describe exactly how value occurs as a result of what's happening in the ecosystem. Okay, so let's take an example which is from an ecosystem mapping article called the ecosystem pie model. It's about the realization of a technology that can store green energy chemically and then be transformed into electric energy. What would that ecosystem look like? There are some components here. So first of all, we have the value proposition. So the main function transports passengers. The ecosystem transports passengers. If it didn't transport passengers, we probably would not be interested in setting up all these activities. An added function is to reduce emission. You have to map things in a way that fits the problem you're trying to solve. So I did this as an added function, could have done it as an unwanted function. That is eliminated, but then it would disappear from the map, right? So it'd be difficult to see what happens. Just to reduce emissions, we probably would not set up this ecosystem because if you don't do anything, there is no emission. So it's really transporting passengers. That's the main function here. And then we have the payment. The bus driver collects payment, so it costs us something. It's completely clear that it's a part of the value proposition, even though a value proposition design canvas doesn't have the price in it. Very, very strange. To do this, we have to make these reactors that convert energy. Well, that is the central thing in reducing the emissions. The reactor is put in the bus, so it goes to the bus maker, and then someone has to own the buses and make them available for use. Buses need some service to be rolling all day. They need this fuel, so the fuel maker makes the fuel and then it's put into the bus. Then the buses are put into traffic. So one thing is to own the buses, right? The other thing is that the bus should be available in time and place so the driver can get there and start doing the route. So we need to have a route scheduling also. Okay, so in this case, I put a sharp corner box on the buses and the drivers because they are assets. Some actor has to provide the assets. The function is to provide an asset. But that's optional. You don't have to do it that way. You can also do a separate layer of assets and a separate layer of activities, but it's very difficult to do. If you want to have a method of illustrating ecosystems that is easy to use and quick to learn, I would like to rather not have a three-dimensional structure. Owning buses and providing them, is that not the same function? Well, maybe we could have done that, but in this case, the whole thing is that there has to be made new buses that has this reactor. So it's a bit critical that we have someone that takes the role of actually buying these. So for this to happen, I would include it because I'm thinking about building an ecosystem. And if nobody's willing to go in and put up the capital, it will not happen. If it's already ongoing and I'm trying to figure out, I want to make it possible for bus drivers to serve a bit of coffee that they can add to the fee, then I probably won't care about the buying and ownership of the buses. So it depends again on the problem we want to solve. Here I thought it was pretty good to have them in there. John Markendal at KTH and colleagues to him, they modeled different configurations graphically, but what was cool that they added is that if you draw the circles around these different clusters of what I now call functions, to make it even more precise, you get the roles. So here you have the component manufacturer, fuel producer, bus manufacturer. They're a little bit in the upstream. Maybe we should take them into account, so we include them in the analysis. And then we have the, so to say, bus service part here, and this could be a bus company. But as they shown, you can draw it another way. You have the same functions. Functions are stable, but separate the ownership and service of buses from the operation of the bus lines. Then you have a fleet owner and a bus operator role. That could be something that happens. Maybe the municipality or the technology inventor think that we cannot get this adoption chain to accept investing in new buses. The bus companies don't want to do that. Well, then we put up another actor. One way to solve these adoption chain problems is actually to create a new role in the ecosystem. This is something we'll come back to later. Or we can do it like this. Maybe the bus company says, we make buses, but we'll operate them. So that will be bus as a service. You don't have to run the buses. Just fuel them and make the schedule and so on, and we'll supply you with buses that are rolling. Don't buy the buses, pay per mile, and you get a really nice and tight operation-based cost structure, right? This could also be a way to innovate. So we can innovate the ecosystem, create new business models without doing anything else than just how we circle the functions. So this is what I find is very fascinating, and why I put this now from the business model level all the way up to the ecosystem layer. So these will generate different value networks. We will have different node sets in these three different examples, and the link between them. Here we can see the owning of buses to traffic of buses. That's where the link boundary is. This is the same here. And then here it's the making of buses to owning of buses. So buying the bus, that's where the line would be. Bus manufacturer, bus buyer, buying the bus, right? So in this other case, here with the fleet owner, they would be in the middle here. So that would be the red ecosystem alternative with two roles instead of one, but it has benefits in case this investment is too big for the bus operator and the bus manufacturer don't want to operate the bus network.